There is a word in the Torah that does not translate cleanly into English. Most scholars render it as order or alignment. But the rabbis of the old tradition, the ones who sat with this text not as literature but as living instruction, they called it something else. They called it the inner architecture of a life that is ready to receive. And for 3,000 years, the families who understood this word, who did not just study it but structured their financial lives around it, those families did not merely survive difficulty. They moved through chaos and came out the other side carrying more than when they entered. I have spent over 30 years inside these texts. My grandmother carried this wisdom from a small town where books were hidden under floorboards to protect them from burning. My teacher, Rabbi Mordechai ben Shimon, taught me that the Torah is not a religious document in the way the modern world uses that word. It is a precision instrument. It is a map of cause and effect that operates at a level most people never reach because they are too busy working on the surface. And today, I want to give you that map. Not the surface version, the actual map. But before I do, I need to name something directly. Because if I do not name it, you will listen to everything I say today and walk away feeling inspired, and nothing will change. There is a pattern I have watched repeat itself for 30 years. People encounter this wisdom. They feel its truth. They carry it with them for 3, maybe 4 days. And then the chaos of their financial life reasserts itself, and the wisdom gets buried under the weight of the urgent, and nothing shifts. I do not want that for you. So you are going to need to stay with me until the very end of what I am sharing today. Not the middle, the end. Because there is one element, one specific piece of what I am going to share, that most teachers never include, and without it, everything else is incomplete. Before we go any further, I want you to type the words, "I am ready to receive," in the comments right now. Not later, right now, before you hear another word. When you declare something in writing, you are not just typing letters. You are making a covenant with the intention you are about to receive. The ancient teachers knew this. The act of declaration is itself a spiritual technology. Type it now. And then come back, because what comes next is the part they never told you. Most people believe that financial chaos is a money problem. They believe the solution is more income, better budgeting, a smarter investment strategy, a higher paying position. This is what every financial platform, every productivity guru, every self-help framework has been selling for the last 50 years. And I am not here to dismiss those tools entirely. Some of them have their place. But here's what I know after 30 years of sitting with people in the middle of genuine financial collapse. People who had tried all of those things and still could not find stability. The problem was never the money. The money was a symptom. The root of financial chaos is always a misalignment between the inner architecture of a person's life and the laws that govern how abundance actually moves. The Torah has a name for this misalignment. It calls it tohu vavohu, the formless and the void. These are the words used in Bereshit, in Genesis, to describe the state of the world before creation began. Formless, void, without structure. And what the text teaches us, what the sages spent centuries unpacking, is that tohu vavohu is not simply a description of the physical universe before creation. It is the description of any system, including a financial life, that has not yet received the organizing principle that makes order possible. You are not struggling because you are unlucky. You are not struggling because the economy is difficult, though it may be. You are not struggling because you are less capable than the people around you. You are struggling because your financial life is operating in a state of tohu vavohu, and no one has ever given you the principle that ends it. That is what today is about. Let me tell you about a woman named Devorah. She was 43 years old when she came to sit with me, and she brought with her a single piece of paper, a list of debts that totaled more than she had earned in the previous 2 years combined. She was not irresponsible. She was not reckless. She had worked in healthcare for 16 years. She had done everything the practical world told her to do. She had cut her expenses. She had taken an extra shift on weekends. She had tried 2 different online income streams, and both of them produced a few $100s and then stopped. She sat across from me on a gray Tuesday afternoon, and the light was low in the room. And she said something I have heard in different words from hundreds of people over 3 decades. She said, "I feel like I am building something on water. Every time I get close to solid ground, it slides." I asked her a single question. I said, "Tell me about the last time you received money. Any money, a payment, a gift, a windfall, anything, and what you did with the first portion of it." She looked at me for a moment. Then she said, "I paid the most urgent bill." And I said, "Before you paid yourself? Before you gave anything away? Before you did anything that indicated to the universe that you were in a state of abundance rather than a state of scarcity?" And she said, "I never thought of it that way." That was the beginning. What I taught Devorah over the following 6 weeks was not a budgeting system. It was not a manifesting practice. It was a set of Torah principles, precise, ordered, testable, that she applied in exact sequence to her financial life. 4 weeks into the process, she did not have a miracle. Let me be honest with you, the debts did not vanish. What happened was subtler and more significant. She stopped reacting. She stopped making financial decisions from a state of fear. And when you stop making decisions from fear, the quality of every decision you make improves. By the end of the 2nd month, she had restructured 2 of the debts on better terms, because she had approached those conversations from a different internal state. By the end of the 3rd month, an opportunity appeared in her work environment that she would have previously been too exhausted and too reactive to notice. She noticed it. She moved toward it. I have seen this pattern repeat itself more times than I can count. The Torah principles do not produce magic. They produce alignment. And what tends to follow alignment, in my experience, is movement. Real, measurable movement in the direction of stability and then abundance. Now let me give you the actual teaching. The first principle is what the Torah calls Reshit, the principle of the first. In Hebrew, Reshit means beginning, but it carries a weight the English word does not. Reshit is not simply the first thing chronologically. It is the thing that sets the spiritual tone for everything that follows. Every financial tradition I have studied, not just Jewish wisdom, but the deep traditions of many cultures, understands this principle, even if it names it differently. The question of what you do with the first portion of what you receive determines the energetic posture of everything that comes after it. Here is how this operates in practice. When income enters your life, any income of any size, the first act must be an act of release, not retention. This does not mean you give everything away. It means you designate a specific, intentional portion. The sages spoke of a tenth, the concept of Meiser, and you release it before you pay anything, before you address any urgency, before you do anything else. The act of release is a declaration. It says, I am not operating from scarcity. I am not holding on to this income with the grip of fear. I am a channel, not a container, and channels do not clog. This is not a feel-good metaphor. The Torah presents this as a law of spiritual mechanics, as precise as any law of physics. When you hoard before you release, you signal to the deeper order of your life that you believe there is not enough. That signal, that belief, held in the body as a chronic tightening around money, is what produces the ceiling. It is what makes the floor of your financial life stay exactly where it is, no matter how hard you push upward. The second principle is what I call the principle of Cheshbon HaNefesh, the accounting of the soul. In the 18th century, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto wrote extensively about this practice. Cheshbon HaNefesh is a daily, precise reckoning, not a budget, not a spreadsheet, a moral and spiritual inventory of your financial decisions. Every evening before sleep, you take 5 minutes. You ask 3 questions. Where did I spend from fear today? Where did I spend from integrity? Where did I behave as though abundance was sealed away from me? And where did I behave as a vessel ready to receive? You write this down, black ink on paper, not a phone, not a screen. The physical act of writing engages a part of the mind that typing does not reach. The sages understood this long before neuroscience confirmed it. This daily practice does not feel dramatic. It will not feel like a breakthrough the first time you do it, or the third, or perhaps the 10th. But by the end of 3 weeks, something begins to surface. You begin to see patterns in your financial behavior that you could not previously see because you were inside them. And once you can see a pattern, you have the ability to interrupt it. This is where financial change actually begins, not in the income, not in the expense column, but in the capacity to see yourself clearly and without flinching. The third principle is what the Torah calls Shmirat Habrit, the guarding of the covenant. In financial terms, this translates into one non-negotiable practice. Every financial agreement you make, every commitment, every promise attached to money, must be honored with exactness. If you said you would pay on the first, you pay on the first, not the third. If you said you would contribute to something, you contribute what you said, not a lesser amount when the moment feels inconvenient. This sounds simple. It is not simple, because the behavior of breaking small financial covenants, rounding down, delaying what you promised, quietly adjusting an agreement when no one is watching, this behavior is the behavior of someone who has not yet fully decided that their word is their currency. And I want to say this with care because I do not say it to shame you. If you have been casual with your financial promises, this is the behavior that is most directly shrinking the space your financial life can occupy. Not because of punishment from above, because of the internal signal it sends. Every time you break a financial covenant, even a small one, even one no one else notices, you are telling the deepest part of yourself that your intentions do not carry weight. And a person whose intentions do not carry weight cannot create the conditions for sustained abundance. Guard your financial word. This is not optional. The fourth principle is tzimtzum, contraction before expansion. The Kabbalistic teachers use this word to describe the act of the divine withdrawing in order to create space for the world to exist. In financial application, tzimtzum teaches a practice that is the opposite of what every modern financial system will tell you. Before you expand, before you scale, before you add the new income stream, before you make the larger investment, you must first deliberately contract. You identify where in your financial life there is waste, not sacrifice, waste. The spending that produces no value, no joy, no investment in your future. You remove it, precisely, intentionally. Not because you are in scarcity, but because you are creating space. A cup that is already full cannot receive more. The act of intentional contraction, of removing what is occupying space without adding value, is the act that makes you ready to receive what is actually aligned with where you are going. The fifth principle is what I call the principle of Elu the Elu. These and these are words of the living God. In its original context, this phrase was used to honor two contradictory opinions in Torah study, teaching that both held truth. In financial life, this principle addresses one of the most destructive patterns I have observed: the belief that financial wisdom is a single road, that there is one correct approach, one right strategy, one way to handle money that, once found, solves everything. This belief produces rigidity, and rigidity in a financial life is lethal, because the world changes, circumstances shift, and the person who cannot adapt because they have locked themselves into a single system will break before they bend. Elu ve'elu in practice means you hold your financial strategies with confidence and with openness simultaneously. You act decisively on what you know, while remaining genuinely curious about what you do not yet know. You do not abandon your principles, but you do not confuse your current strategy with the principles themselves. Now, I want to say something to you directly, and I need you to hear it clearly. You are going to apply some part of what I have shared today. Maybe one principle, maybe all 5. And within the first week, possibly within the first 3 days, something will happen that will test whether you actually believe what you are applying. It will not announce itself as a test. It will look like an emergency. It will look like an urgent bill arriving at the worst moment, or a financial obligation that seems to demand you ignore everything I just told you and go back to the old pattern. This is not coincidence. This is the nature of any genuine spiritual or behavioral shift. The moment you declare a new direction, the old pattern fights to reassert itself. The ancient teachers called this the Yetzer Hara, the opposing force, not as a supernatural enemy, but as the momentum of every habit and belief that has been running your financial life until today. I want you to know this is coming, not if, when. And when it comes, what you must not do is interpret it as evidence that the teaching does not work. What you must do is recognize it as the test that confirms you are actually moving in a new direction. The test is proof that something has shifted. Stay steady. Apply the principles with even more care and precision than you did before the test arrived. What you will find, what I have watched people find again and again across 30 years, is that the difficulty resolves. Not always the way you expected, sometimes in a completely unexpected direction, but it resolves. And on the other side of that resolution is a different kind of stability than you had before. A stability that is rooted in something real, not in circumstance. If what I have shared today has opened something in you, if you feel that these 5 principles are not just information but actual keys, then I want you to know that everything I have described today is part of a larger body of work. I have spent years developing a complete framework that walks through not just these 5 principles, but the full architecture of what the Torah calls a Beit Olam, a house built to last. It covers the specific daily practices, the exact sequences in which these principles must be applied for someone in a state of financial chaos versus someone in a state of financial stagnation versus someone in a state of growth who wants to move into genuine overflow. It includes the specific texts, the exact passages from Torah, from Proverbs, from the Kabbalistic tradition, that are designed to work on the level of your subconscious, your belief architecture, the part of you that makes financial decisions before your conscious mind has even entered the room. The complete resource is available, and the link is in the description below this video. I am not asking you to take my word for it. I am asking you to look at the evidence of your own life, the patterns that have repeated, the ceiling that has not moved, the effort that has not yet produced the alignment it deserves, and ask yourself whether a 30-year lineage of ancient precision might carry something that the mainstream has been missing. I believe it does. I have seen it produce results, measured, realistic, earned results, not fantasies, too many times to doubt it. Tell me in the comments what surprised you most in what I shared today. Not what you agreed with, what surprised you. Because surprise is where real learning happens. Surprise is the sign that something you did not previously see has now become visible. I read every comment on this channel. I respond when I can. Your reflection matters, and naming it publicly is itself a form of declaration. The same principle we opened with today. If this teaching landed in a place you were not expecting, if it reached something in you that other content about money has not reached, I want to ask you to subscribe to this channel. Not as a favor to me, but because what I am releasing here is not random. It is a body of work, built in sequence, and each video builds on what came before. If you encounter the 5th principle before you have understood the first, it will not carry its full weight. This channel is a curriculum. Subscribe so that you receive it in the order it was designed. And if you are willing to do one more thing, press the like button before you leave. Not to help an algorithm, though it does help. Do it because it sends this wisdom to someone who is sitting in their own version of that gray Tuesday afternoon, with their own piece of paper, with their own list of burdens they cannot figure out how to release. Every like is a referral. Every like says, "This reached me, and I believe it can reach you." Be that channel of provision for someone you have never met. Go now, and may your financial life be not merely repaired but reconstructed, built on a foundation that does not shift when the world around it shakes. May you move from tohu vavohu into the clarity of order that has been waiting for you inside these ancient words. The wisdom is not new, but your application of it, beginning today, is the beginning of something that can be. Shalom.